We're big, we're bad, and we're back. Mr. Jack Douglas, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. This one's very, very cool.
It's been minutes.
In minutes, absolutely minutes. And if you're watching it concurrently, maybe even seconds.
Oh, yeah.
This one's a really exciting one because we have a track sheet. I mean, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, come on.
And it's How Do You Sleep?
This stuff came to us as 8 tracks. I transferred it from 8-track to 16-track. Then we mixed it. Then we transferred it from a 2-track to 8-track. Again, back to 8-track.
Yeah.
And did our string overdubs on the 8-track. So it went 8-track, 16-track, 8-track, 2-track.
It's quite a few iterations.
Yeah, but you know what? No one. Well, first of all, when Roy would do a transfer.
This is Roy Cicala.
Yeah, Roy Cicala. When he would put a Pultec on the sync head so that he was making up for anything that was going on in the sync head as it was going over. So he would pretty much. You wouldn't know that it bounced around. And John was like, "Oh, only 3 generations, no problem.
No problem.
We're used to 6."
Yeah.
It's like so. It was never a problem to do that. It just never lost anything. Maybe it added something. I think the loss. But 2, it was 8 to 16, 16 to 8. No, yeah, 8 to 16. 16. I think we went right to this 8-track with the mix.
Yeah. So this is the record plant?
Yeah. Record plant, New York. And if you look up here, which you'll see later, you'll see the producer was a guy named P. Spector.
P. Spector.
Yeah, this is my handwriting. No one seemed to mind. Artist, John Lennon. Client, Apple Records. Master take 4 and master take 3. And the names are Sakaliakis, and there wasn't room for me to put Douglas, so I just put JD. If we go back one, here's a tape box with the final takes, and this is the 8-track. You'd see here complete takes 1, 2, 3, and then 4 would be a complete take and a playback. PB means playback, and then I would put M for master, right. And then HTL meant head and tail leaded. And it's the same thing. How Do You Sleep only took 3. And we're talking about the strings going on over it's the 3rd take of the string.
How are the strings being monitored? Do they have the speakers in the room?
No, they
were on headphones?
No, the conductor had one small speaker.
Yeah.
And the first chair to each section had headphones.
Okay.
That's all it took.
So the first chair's the only one on headphones, and the other guys or girls that are playing along are just playing because
to the conductor. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Who's pretty much conducting to your first chair.
Amazing.
Yeah. You want to hear some of this? It's kind of interesting.
Hell yeah.
I mean, the thing is, this is Studio A at Record Plant.
Did Shelley just text you?
No.
That would have been funny.
Yeah. Studio A at Record Plant, and it was a dead room.
Yeah.
And what we used to do is we used to put plywood on the walls. Just come in and put plywood everywhere.
Because it was too dead?
It was too dead to liven the room up. No decatries. We'd go over each of the sections.
So this on these stems, this is called song.
So let's talk about this delay on his vocal. He said, you have ATD, and we all scratched our heads and didn't want to act like fools. And of course, Roy said, we can get it.
Yeah.
There was no digital delay at that time. So Roy goes to maintenance and says, what do we do? And so they built us a machine. They took a 4-track that could run at 30 IPS. And they put a capstan doubler, a fat capstan. So now it was running at 60 IPS. We had to get transcription reels because the thing would run so fast. So you put a VFO on it, a variable speed, a VSO, a variable speed oscillator.
Yep.
We called it VFO, variable frequency oscillator. You put that on the motor, and then you could control how fast you wanted it so that it would be in time. So you could take it 60 and you could take it up then from 60. So once you took it up to 60, you were pretty much doubling it. Then Paul Prestipino, who built this monstrosity, said, if I put two playback heads on this close together, which he did, put two playback heads on it. So there's a record head and two playback heads. And then if he put this dial on top of it with a rod that pushed the tape between the two heads. Now you had flanging instantly.
Wow.
So, and you're returning, you could return two stereo tracks. There's a 4-track, and you could just do this incredible sound.
So you had these two heads, and this rod could push the tape backwards and forwards to vary
between the
this.
two heads.
I understand.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was the instant flanging.
Which machine? You may have already said. I'm sorry. Which machine was it? An Ampex?
It was an Ampex, either a 440 or a 300. I think it was a 300 deck. With the baseball bat that you used to go back and forth, forward and rewind, to slow it down. And you'd be working with John on something, and Roy might send the echo over to this thing, and you would be just cranking this big dial, back and forth. Anyway,
in real time.
In real time, yeah. And John just thought that it was like, oh, you have one. Oh, you have one. Meanwhile, it was probably Paul Prestipino probably worked on that thing for 20 hours straight to get that thing to work like that. But and the capstan was like so big. But you had to have these giant tapes on it. And you had to be ready to when that thing ran out, God help you if it ran out during a performance. So you would constantly be looking at the thing and sweating. And then you'd have to send a signal to Roy, like stall for just 10 seconds while I flip this tape over through the other way. I don't know, why that vocal is. What else is on that?
Well, we have separated drums by the looks of it. Let's have a listen.
No. I think that's not Alan on this track.
Pretty tied.
Yeah. I think that's Jim.
You think it's Keltner?
Yeah. Because what happened was when they got over to New York, a lot of stuff was recorded in Dittenhurst, in his house, really. They converted it to, and once he got to New York and he saw the studio facility and what he could do there, a lot of stuff was redone, and Jim came in, and Klaus Vormann. So they started to re-record stuff. Imagine there's a re-record. And that piano is still around.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Who has it?
It's at Iwi in New Jersey, a beautiful big room, because Roy started that place.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, and he brought over a bunch of equipment. So before the auction, he just moved a few things out.
just a couple of things.
Like
just a couple of things.
The piano. And I had lunch with Jimmy Iovine a few days ago, and he said, "Jack, remember this?" And we went into his room, and there was the black Mellotron that John had stored, which was the Mellotron, the double keyboard, big monstrous thing that the Beatles used. And he got it, and he brought it over, and John had a vault at the record plant in the basement, and it was a sealed, real vault, and in there was, which we would frequently go down and listen to some of the things in there.
Oh, I'm sure.
He had all the 3-track Shea Stadium tapes and instruments and that Mellotron, which I think Jimmy got at auction. It used to be cool to go down there.
I can only imagine.
Put up a Shea Stadium tape and listen to the actual performance, It was like pretty cool stuff.
Unbelievable. What an incredible live band.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, basically no monitors. Just
Hoping for the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is this George?
John. That's John. I think Jesse Ed Davis is on this one too. Yeah.
So Beatley. Da 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 da.
What a great rhythm player.
Unbelievable.
Oh. Yeah. Jesse Ed Davis.
My hair's just standing on end.
Yeah. Jesse Ed Davis came. Huart. What a deep groove, huh?
Is this Foreman? Klaus Foreman on bass?
No, yeah. Yeah, Klaus was the only bass player on it.
I always thought George had played on this song.
I think he did, but I think he played on it in England and not.
Not the
Yeah.
final version.
I was so shocked when I was doing the transfer that this song, when I did the first transfer of it, I was like, is he singing about Paul?
I was going to wonder whether we were going to touch on that.
I was like,
I didn't want to start that
wow.
conversation.
Wow. And so that was always a mystery that I never went to with John about that relationship until that video, which I think I showed you once, where he starts talking about Paul, where he confesses to the fact that he loved him as a brother and that he could take the piss out of him anytime he wanted to. Whether we got it or not, is something else. So it sounded like there was just this angry thing, but apparently he enjoyed that. That's more English than it is American, that kind of piss taking. But yeah, that video is wonderful, where that's the Playboy interview. I did show it to you.
You did. You showed it to me a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Somebody had found the video cassettes
Yes, they had been discarded and were
from
marked.
like 1980.
Yeah, were marked TBE, to be erased. And the reason they were to be erased is because in the video, Yoko was sleeping on a couch.
I remember, yeah.
So she didn't want, anybody to see her sleeping on a couch
While we
we
were
were working.
Yeah.
And so that was the Shift, or whatever his name was, came in to do the Playboy interview. And he was so petrified at sitting with John.
At the console.
Yeah, at the console, that John actually had to he had to prime him to get the interview started, because the guy was shaking. He was terribly frightened.
Well, it was a big deal. I mean, he's back in the studio after not recording for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Which probably felt like an eternity.
To him it did,
Yeah.
certainly, and to us too.
And who was filming it again?
Bob Gruen.
Bob Gruen, very famous photographer.
Yeah. Bob, it was his birthday, John's birthday. The birthday cards are on the console. And
there's a reflection in that video of Bob Gruen holding the largest video camera from 1980, this, and he's holding it like this.
And it's got a monitor that pops out. It was the first one that had a monitor on it, and he gave that to John for his birthday. So he came in. I took it away from him, and I took video of Bob Gruen, And then John was doing this interview, so Bob Parks.
Wait, this is John's birthday?
It's John's birthday.
In 1980?
Yeah, he was 40.
Oh, so it was only a few days before he died.
Well, it was sometime. It was October. It's a month.
Like a month or so.
Yeah, two
2
months.
months. Wow.
So his birthday card is on the console. My gift to him was about 40 cassettes of the hidden microphone tapes that he didn't know about, but had asked for. It was kind of a nudge, nudge, wink, wink situation. After the second day of recording Double Fantasy, he said to me, you know, not always the best things are said out in the studio. Sometimes they're said in the control room or anywhere else. You never know where someone's going to say something that's really interested. And he was so interested in documenting everything about that went on in the sessions, including the journal that was kept. But to him, the idea of having these audio of everything. So, I mean, that's what he said. And so I hid microphones. I hid microphones everywhere. I mean, they were in the control room. They were in his vocal booth. They were out in the room. They were in the bathroom. They were in maintenance. They were in his little private room that he liked to go in while I was comping vocals. He would go into this other room and just hang out. I put a piano in it, and it was very comfortable. Had a couch, and he could just hang out. And so there were, again, 2 mono transcription tape machines in a room that was being fed with all of these, just everything went into this thing, these machines. And every once in a while, the guy would have to go down just to make sure it flipped over. But they ran so slow that basically you got 10 hours out of one reel. And so for his birthday, his 40th birthday, I don't know, I can't remember how long it took to transfer all those things, but I had somebody working around the clock to transfer all those tapes to cassettes up to that point, since, you know, end of July. And they wheeled them in. And I said, well, remember what you said about everything being said? And he couldn't believe it. He started listening to them right away. As soon as he got home, he was like, oh, this is incredible. You know, all the things that are said out there. Because every night after the session, he sat for an hour or sometimes 2 in the control room when the actual date was over and just put his feet up and talked to us about everything. About politics, about the Beatles, about Hamburg, Germany. About being a father now, about everything. He just sat there and talked and passed a pipe with some good grass in it. and it was, you know, all that stuff was there. And every once in a while, bits and pieces show up online as they have a name for it, the hidden recordings or something. But someday, I hope, you'll be able to get all, whatever, 1,000 hours. I mean, they talk about content. When we went to Record Plant to do Walking on Thin Ice, I, again, bugged the control room, the live room, and recorded right up to the very last day. And the last day tape I destroyed because I just couldn't bear it. You know, when you take a reel of tape and you take it by the hub and you pick it up and knock it like this, and it just all falls off like that. That's what I did with that reel of tape. I also gave him a pair of, Lee DiCarlo and I went to Harvey Music, which was the big hi-fi dealer, and gave him the first pair of wireless headphones. It wasn't Bluetooth, it was just a transceiver, you know, he could plug this thing into his stereo at the headphone jack, and it would transmit to the headphones. They were Sennheisers. They sounded pretty good. He thought it was like magic. I can walk around the house and listen to music.
Wireless headsets. I remember this.
Yeah.
With the aerial.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, pre-Bluetooth.
Wow, that was pretty hardcore.
That was good. Yeah.
I learned a huge amount.
Yeah, you know what Roy used, and he used one of two mics in a bass drum that I could never get them to work. He would take a surgical hose.
Yeah.
And wrap surgical hose around the tuners of a bass drum.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he would attach the surgical hose to a hub, a steel hub, a tape hub. And then he had drilled holes in the tape hub, very much like how you stand a Christmas tree up.
Yeah.
With like 3 screws.
Uh-huh.
And he would put either a 57 or an EV666 into that, screw it down, and that's how he got his bass drum sound.
I have no idea how that would work.
The
sounds like magic.
The mic was suspended.
Oh, I see now.
The rubber hose would come down.
I get it now. Ah.
He connected it all, and this mic was suspended.
I see.
So for some reason he had this theory that you didn't put a bass drum mic on a mic stand because the vibrations of the mic stand had nothing to do with the vibrations of the bass drum.
I understand.
So the bass, yeah, you can't knock it.
It sounds like an amazing crackpot idea.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
just
the look of it.
The look of it sounds incredible.
Yeah, and I remember having to put these. He didn't use a front head. He covered the front head. He covered the bass drum in a tunnel like we do very much now. But he had to suspend that mic and his mic choices.
Wow.
Yeah, they're great mics. Yeah. You see, but they don't have a whole lot of real bottom, but they have all that 80 and 100 cycle stuff. Right. Which is what you hear.
Yeah, especially right at the top.
Yeah.
Groove is so good. Do you think that's Keltner?
There's no real low bottom there, but that you can't kill that bass drum. It's there, it's.
What's on the toms?
87s.
87s.
If he had a drummer with 2 rack toms and a floor, he would just put the 87 in a figure 8 and put it like this over the 2 toms.
The 2 racks.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's good stuff, and it still works.
Well, thanks ever so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was phenomenal.
See you again soon.
Let's do another one soon. Thanks for watching. Please leave a bunch of comments and questions below.